Hey everyone, it's Ivan, KitBadger.com, out here in front of the gear view, and today, talking night vision. These guys right here, which are my DTNVS by Licentia Arms. So, what do all those words mean? Well, DTNVS, Dual Tube Night Vision System. That is actually in reference to this housing right here, made by Acton Black, and Licentia Arms is the company that actually built these. And so, we should probably talk about that for a second. In the night vision world, there's a number of companies that actually make tubes, to include L3, which these are L3 tubes. And last I heard, there's like 2 companies that L3 actually sells their tubes to. So everyone has to go through these 2 different companies to get L3 tubes. One of those companies is actually Licentia Arms. I don't know that they actually sell the L3 tubes to anyone else, but they use them. And so then it comes down to putting tubes into housings. You could do it like at your kitchen table, not recommended. And some companies do. They'll get tubes from wherever, they'll get housings, and they'll put them together. What separates different companies with respect to manufacturing processes? 1, having an actual like sterile clean room, like that's a real thing, and 2, test equipment. So there's actually a lot that goes into, and that test equipment is incredibly expensive, and Licentia Arms actually does it right and owns the equipment. If you've been following along with my series on night vision, kind of started at the bottom and have been scaling with respect to capability and things like that. Initially starting with a green phos PVS 14 Gen 2 and working up from there. And partner in this, Shooting Surplus, amazing guys, all kinds of pretty much everything shooting related over there you can order, to include thermal and night vision. And yeah, they ended up getting me 2 really awesome Gen 3 L3 Filmless white phos PVS 14s. Did work with those, whether it was running one or bridging them, panel bridge, bunch of video content on that stuff. And where do you go from there? Well, something that's really cool that Licentia Arms offers is being able to take your tubes and, with the correct procedures and testing, actually put them into housings. So you're like, hey, I got this tube, and now I have this pretty closely matched other tube, because budget allows me to now afford a second tube, and maybe I don't want to run just PVS 14s bridged. Hey, I'd like to put them into a housing. So Licentia Arms will do that. And so I actually went to them and I was like, hey, I have these 2 tubes, and can we do this? And they're like, we can do that, we'll do that, but I'd rather not do that. And reason being is, while they were pretty close, they were further apart than they would like them. And I want to say, I can't remember the exact threshold, I want to say it's like 50 FOM. Like, they would rather have them not be over 50 figure of merit with respect to one tube to the other. And the ones I had, I think, just under 100 or something like that, one to the other. So I was like, okay. And so we ended up basically getting a full-blown like new set, and these things are incredible. They offer different tiers of tubes, and these are basically on that high end. The way the tube specs work for these, like when you go to order them, there's a drop-down menu, and they're all L3 Filmless white phos tubes, and they have, I think, 20 UA, 24 UA, and then high FOM. And so each of those has a like minimum FOM, it will be, and high FOM, minimum FOM is 2500, and they're basically aviation grade. So there's no specs within the tube. Super clean, which is pretty incredible. So that is what these are. And these got dropped into, again, this housing, the DTNVS by Acton Black, and I'll go over some of the features of that. The housing is made out of a fiber reinforced polycarbonate, really strong, and as you can see, just kind of these, I guess, like mold lines, basically made for rigidity, durability, and it is articulating. Over here on the front, we open this up. We have one CR123 battery, which powers this unit. And also on the front, you have your switch where you can go ahead and turn it on. And there's also a built-in IR. So that little guy right there, little task light basically. And take these guys off. You can obviously adjust your focus there on the front. And then on the back here, these are PVS 14 like lenses or eyepieces, I guess we'll say, which you can actually order them with a different one. This for me is familiar in that you can adjust it, which is awesome. Basically adjusting it to your eye, especially if you wear prescription lenses. And something I haven't used much with this, but I've used with some of the other models, is basically a step-down adapter for my camera so you can film directly through it rather than just a mission recorder. Also, this, I don't have them in here, but they actually make PD stops, pupillary distance, I guess it is. So every time you fold these forward, it just goes until it hits the stop. And that lets you know that, like, hey, these are directly where they need to be in front of my eye, rather than just kind of adjusting a little bit. Personally, haven't really found an issue not having them. Pretty easy to adjust. Also, when these articulate out of the way, it immediately turns it off. So if you want to lift one up, you don't have like backlit splash or light splashing back against your face or helmet, head, anything like that. It'll just turn itself off, which is pretty handy. A number of things. One, if you just need to lift them up, they immediately turn off. If you need to use a task light, looking at a map, something along those lines, or if you're using a weapon-mounted thermal or some other optic. The DTNVS uses a dovetail, so right here I have the Wilcox G24 mount, and these guys slide on like that. And then I'll usually take these bungees. There's these little eyelet kind of deals right there, and snap those guys in there. Right here, this is on the skull mount by OpsCore, and bam, have these guys set up. The other thing about that articulation is right here, when your nods are up, I'll tell you right now, this is super uncomfortable. Being able to rotate them back. One, it's moving the center of gravity back, like over your spine, over your head. It takes a lot of the weight away from it. And it also, it's just lower profile. You don't have things sticking out in front of you, which, depending on what you're doing, can be an important thing. And again, once they rotate back this way, the tubes cut out. So if they are down and you're looking here, you can rotate that up. It'll immediately cut out. If you need to use a task light, or you just want to be able to see ambient, like if you're looking for, hey, was that white light or IR? Easy to do, and this is cut off when you do it. And then of course they both cut off, and get them back out of the way. And since you don't want to bang up your investment, they offer these cases, which is pretty sweet. Inside here you can store batteries and stuff, and then back here I actually have my spec sheets, and under here keep my DTNVS's. Over here you can configure all this stuff, have mount there, and then this is pretty neat. This is actually their improved counterweight kit. Also have a set of these guys for doing stuff usually indoors, and this little 10-round PMAG, which I'll speak to that real quick. Their improved counterweight kit actually comes with some bungees and straps to basically manage cables, things like that. And right here, just Velcros onto the back of your helmet. And then you can open this guy up. And right there, it'll actually fit a battery pack for PVS 31s. Pretty handy. And it'll actually also fit a 10-round PMAG. So if you're not actually running a external battery pack, carry useful things. Do not put just like lead weights on the back of your helmet. If you're going to carry weight, make it useful. So to that end, fully loaded 10-round PMag. Like, yeah, it's useful, and it's acting as a counterbalance for your helmet, which is pretty handy. They come with their spec sheets, and as I mentioned, the ones I have being high FOM, basically no blemishes, no specs or anything anywhere. The FOM of the one tube is 2642. The other one is 2650. So FOM difference of 8. And other meaningful stuff, EBI 1.2, EBI in the other tube is also 1.2. Yeah, they're pretty amazing tubes. So brings us to, I guess, how I've used them. Since I've had these, I've put in a lot of time with them, whether it's full-blown night vision courses or time out in the range, to include in the shoot house. When you get into most anything, to include night vision, you don't know what you don't know. I was pretty fortunate, kind of scaling up through all of it, starting with like green phos PVS 14 Gen 2 and working my way up to these. And these are incredible, like image clarity, that really high FOM, no black spots in there. These things do an incredible job. And then with respect to the housing, pretty lightweight, and the articulation, really, really nice. Being able to just move one out of the way, especially just on a pragmatic level for me personally, like working with my camera and things like that, being able to just lift this out of the way, do whatever I need to do. It turns off, boom, drop it back down. Really, really nice. Not to mention when they're up, being able to roll these back, taking strain off your head and neck, move that center of gravity back, also really nice. And yeah, I've been really, really stoked on these. Night vision, like a lot of things, not cheap. It is an investment. So these, there's a number of different options, whether it's tubes or some different things with respect to the ocular or the pupillary distance, things along those lines. Basically scales from a little over 10 grand to I think like 13.5. Again, depending on features, tubes, things like that. I will say, really pleased with these. They are decidedly an investment, and really stoked with Licentia Arms. Like, one, I've actually talked a lot about those guys, really cool guys, and they love it. They just nerd out on it. One of these days, hopefully I'll get an opportunity to get back there and do some filming with like their sterile clean room, go over all the testing and stuff that's involved, because yeah, like it's pretty amazing when you see what goes into doing it the right way versus like, hey, I got these tubes and then I ordered a housing off of eBay. Like, let's do this at the kitchen table. So yeah, good people doing it the right way. But there'll be links down below where you can go check out their stuff. And last but not least, if you appreciate my content and want to support it, greatly appreciate it. One of the ways is supporting me directly through Patreon. Helps me go out, create more content for you, as well as give you early access to videos, as well as some exclusive stuff. And if you have questions for me, we have an active Discord. happy to answer all your questions over there. But as always, thanks for joining us at kitbadger.com. Look forward to seeing you next time.